I'm Lena Torres, the woman who was abandoned by her husband in the middle of a violent storm while giving birth, only to face a chilling truth. Mark and Victoria were using my own daughter as a bargaining chip to cover up a money laundering scheme and the bribery of public officials. Before I share my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever overcome life's toughest moments for your family. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happens next. The contractions ripped through me like lightning splitting the dark California sky. Outside the windows of Monterey General Hospital, the Pacific storm hammered against the glass with a fury I'd never seen in my 5 years working these halls. As a trauma nurse, I'd held countless hands through pain, but nothing had prepared me for this moment when I was the one drowning in it. "Mark!" I gasped, reaching for my husband's hand. But his chair sat empty, still warm from where he'd been sitting just minutes ago. Through the fog of another contraction, I saw him pacing in the hallway, phone pressed to his ear, his free hand gesturing wildly. The monitor beside me beeped its concern. Sophia's heartbeat, usually strong and steady at 140, had dropped to 110, then 100. Dr. Martinez rushed in, her scrubs still damp from the rain. "Lena, we need to move fast. The baby's showing signs of distress." "Get Mark," I pleaded, tears mixing with the sweat on my face. "Please, I need him here." The young nurse, Jenny, I'd trained her myself last year, squeezed my shoulder and hurried to the hall. Through the doorway, I watched my husband of 3 years hold up his hand to stop her, mouthing 5 more minutes as he turned away. Another contraction seized me, this one bringing a scream I couldn't hold back. The lights flickered as the storm knocked against the hospital's backup generators. In that stuttering light, I saw a figure in a soaked navy peacoat stride past Mark and into my room. "Ma'am, I'm looking for—" The man stopped mid-sentence, taking in the scene. Me, alone and terrified. The medical team preparing for an emergency cesarean. My husband visible through the doorway, still on his phone. "Please," I whispered, not even knowing what I was asking for. The stranger's jaw tightened. He shrugged off his wet coat, revealing a flannel shirt underneath, and moved to my bedside. His hand was warm and calloused as it wrapped around mine. "I'm Ethan," he said simply. "You're not doing this alone." "The father needs to leave if he's not scrubbed in," Dr. Martinez said, pulling on her surgical gloves. "He's not," I started, but another contraction stole my words. "I'm staying," Ethan said firmly. To me, he added, "Breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth, just like steering through rough seas, one wave at a time." As they wheeled me to the OR, I caught one last glimpse of Mark. He'd moved to the parking lot, visible through the rain-streaked window, still talking animatedly on his phone. The man holding my hand followed my gaze and squeezed gently. "Focus on your breathing," Ethan murmured. "Your baby needs you strong right now." The operating room was cold and bright. They put up the blue drape, and I felt the strange tugging sensation as they began. My teeth chattered, from cold, from fear, from fury at the man who'd promised to love me in sickness and health. "Tell me about your baby," Ethan said, his voice steady as the storm. "Boy or girl?" "Girl," I managed. "Sophia Marie." "Beautiful name, strong like her mother." I wanted to laugh at this stranger calling me strong when I felt anything but. The tugging intensified, and then a cry, thin and angry and absolutely perfect. "She's here," Dr. Martinez announced. "A little stressed but fighting. Just needs some oxygen support." They whisked Sophia away before I could see more than a flash of dark hair. Panic clawed at my chest. "She's okay," Ethan assured me, though he couldn't possibly know. "Listen, you can hear her crying. That's a warrior's cry." He was right. Even from across the room, Sophia's voice cut through everything else. The beeping machines, the murmured medical speak, the storm still raging outside. When they finally brought her to me, wrapped tight with a tiny oxygen cannula taped to her perfect face, I sobbed. "Hey there, tough girl," I whispered. Ethan stepped back, giving us space, but I caught his sleeve. "Thank you," I said. "I don't even know why you—" "I came to deliver emergency supplies to the hospital," he explained. Marine generators and equipment. But this seemed more important. A nurse poked her head in. Mrs. Peterson, your husband is asking if you're done yet. He says he has to leave for San Francisco tonight. The words hit harder than any contraction. Done yet. Like I'd been inconveniencing him with the birth of our child. Tell him, I started, then stopped. What was there to say? Tell him his wife and daughter are perfect, Ethan said quietly, and that they don't need him. 3 days later, I stood in the doorway of our Cannery Row apartment, Sophia sleeping against my chest in her carrier. The place felt different, emptier. It took me a moment to realize why. Mark's gaming setup was gone from the corner, his golf clubs missing from behind the door. On the kitchen counter, a note in his jagged handwriting. This isn't what I signed up for. I transferred what was left in checking to my account for the San Francisco deal. Good luck. My legs gave out. I sank onto the second-hand couch we'd bought together at a yard sale, laughing about our starter home furniture. Sophia stirred at my movement, her tiny fist waving in the air before settling back to sleep. With shaking hands, I opened my banking app. Checking, $73,042. Savings, $0. The credit card Mark and I shared, maxed out and closed. My car, bought before we married but stupidly put in both our names. Sold, according to a text from the dealer thanking Mr. Peterson for his business. The formula samples from the hospital would last maybe 2 more days. My maternity leave was unpaid. The rent was due in 12 days. The math was simple and merciless. Rosa Alvarez found me there 3 hours later, still in the same position, Sophia now crying for food I could barely provide. The stress had dried up what little milk supply I'd had. Ay, mija, Rosa sighed, her weathered hands immediately reaching for Sophia. I heard that worthless man peeling out of here at dawn. Good riddance, but what timing? I don't know what to do, I admitted, the words scraping my throat raw. I've always known what to do, Rosa. I'm a nurse. I fix things. I help people. But I can't. I don't know how to fix this. Rosa settled beside me, Sophia calming in her practiced arms. The older woman had raised 4 children alone after her husband died in a fishing accident 30 years ago. If anyone understood, it was her. First, you feed the baby, she said practically. I have formula from when my grandson visited last month. Then you eat something. I have pozole on the stove. Then we figure out the rest. I can't take your... When my Miguel died, you know what saved us. People who didn't ask permission to help, so shut up and let me heat a bottle. Over the next 2 days, Rosa became my lifeline. She watched Sophia while I applied for emergency aid, filed for child support I knew I'd never see, and searched for any job that would let me bring a newborn. Every application felt like swallowing glass, going from trauma nurse to begging for grocery store shifts. You should find that man from the hospital, Rosa said one evening, bottle-feeding Sophia while I updated my resume for the 100th time. The one who stayed with you. I don't even know his last name. Ethan, who runs Hale Marine Logistics. Everyone at the harbor knows him. Good man. Lost his fiancée in a rescue mission 5 years ago. Helps people now because he couldn't help her. I looked up from my laptop. How do you know all this? Rosa shrugged. My nephew works the docks. Says Ethan asked about you. Wanted to make sure you and the baby were okay. I'm not a charity case, I said, even as my bank balance mocked me. No, but you're a woman with a new baby who got dealt a bad hand. There's no shame in accepting a good turn when it comes. That night, after Rosa left, I sat in the dark apartment feeding Sophia her last bottle of Rosa's formula. Tomorrow, I'd have to figure out how to buy more with $70 to my name. My phone buzzed with an email. Another rejection. We've decided to pursue other candidates. Sophia's eyes, still that newborn navy blue, gazed up at me with absolute trust. She didn't know her father had abandoned us. Didn't know we were 3 days from eviction. She just knew I was her mother, and that was enough for her. I'm going to figure this out, I promised her, though the words felt hollow. Somehow. The storm had passed, leaving Monterey Bay unusually calm. Through the window, I could see the lights of the fishing boats heading out for the early morning catch. Somewhere among those lights was a man who'd held my hand through the worst night of my life. a stranger who'd shown more kindness than the man who'd promised to love me forever. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I'd swallow my pride and go to the harbor. Hale Marine Logistics sat at the end of Fisherman's Wharf, a modern glass and steel building that seemed to watch over the older cannery structures like a protective parent. I'd walked past it 100 times, never imagining I'd be standing at its door. Sophia strapped to my chest, practicing what to say. Just thank him and leave, I muttered to myself. Don't cry, don't beg, just say thank you. The receptionist, a kind-faced woman named Carmen, took one look at Sophia and melted. Oh, what a precious girl. How old? 10 days, I managed. Is Mr. Hale expecting you? No, I just wanted to thank him for something. I'm Lena, from the hospital. Carmen's eyes widened with recognition. Oh, you're the nurse. Hold on one moment, honey. Before I could protest that I wasn't the anything, she'd buzzed Ethan's office. Within seconds, the man himself appeared in the doorway, looking less like a sea captain and more like a CEO in dark jeans and a button-down shirt. But his eyes, those steady green eyes, were exactly as I remembered. Lena. He crossed the lobby in 3 strides. How are you? How's Sophia? The genuine concern in his voice nearly undid me. We're managing. I just came to thank you for that night. You didn't have to. Is that formula in your bag? He nodded to the diaper bag where a lone bottle peeked out. Just the one? Heat flooded my cheeks. We're fine. Carmen, could you hold Sophia for just a moment? Ethan asked. I need to show Lena something in my office. I wanted to refuse, but Carmen was already cooing over Sophia, and Ethan's hand was gentle on my elbow, guiding me down the hall. His office was nothing like Mark's flashy real estate space had been. Functional, organized, with huge windows overlooking the bay. What caught my eye was the photo on his desk. A woman with kind eyes and dark hair, laughing on the deck of a boat. That's Meredith, he said quietly. She died 5 years ago. Volunteer rescue mission went wrong. I'm sorry. So am I. Every day. He turned from the photo. Lena, I heard about what happened. With your husband. My spine stiffened. I didn't come here for pity. Good, because I'm not offering any. He moved to his desk, pulling out a folder. I'm offering a job. Full-time, benefits, flexible hours. You can bring Sophia until you arrange childcare. I'm a nurse, My company coordinates medical supplies for marine vessels, emergency equipment for harbors from here to Alaska. I need someone who understands trauma supplies, who can inventory medical equipment, coordinate with hospitals. He set the folder in front of me. I need someone I can trust to get it right because lives depend on it. I stared at the salary figure. It was less than my nursing job, but more than I'd dared hope for. This is because you feel sorry for me. This is because I've been trying to fill this position for 6 months, and every candidate has been some business major who doesn't know a defibrillator from a blood pressure cuff. He leaned against his desk. Look, I have a guest house on my property. 2 bedrooms, furnished, sits empty. Market rent would be $2,400, but I'd charge you $800 until you're back on your feet, close enough to walk to work. That's charity. That's practicality. I need someone I can call at 2 a.m. when a ship radios in a medical emergency. Hard to do that if you're across town with a newborn. I wanted to say no. Every proud bone in my body screamed to walk out. But then I thought of Sophia, of the empty formula canister, of the eviction notice that would come any day. Why? I asked instead. Why do you care what happens to us? Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his gaze drifting to Meredith's photo. Because 5 years ago, I couldn't save the person who mattered most. But that night in the hospital, I could do something. And now I can do more. He met my eyes. That's not pity, Lena. That's purpose. Sophia's cry echoed from the lobby. Hungry again. Always hungry. When could I start? I heard myself ask. How about now? Carmen can show you the inventory system while I run to Safeway. Sophia takes what? Similac? I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. One more thing, he said as I turned to leave. This job, the house, you earn it. I don't do charity cases. I invest in good people. Don't mistake one for the other. Walking back to the lobby, I felt something I hadn't in 10 days. Hope. Fragile as sea glass. But there. 2 months can change everything. Sophia had grown from a fragile newborn into a bright-eyed baby who smiled at everyone but saved her biggest grins for Ethan. I'd found my rhythm at Hale Marine, discovering I was good at more than just nursing. I could organize, coordinate, and anticipate needs in ways that made Ethan joke I was part psychic. The guest house had become home. Not just a roof over our heads, but a real home, with Rosa visiting daily and Ethan stopping by evenings to check on us. He'd show up with takeout, saying he'd ordered too much, or with a toy for Sophia that fell off a cargo shipment. We both knew the truth, but I'd learned to accept help gracefully. I was settling Sophia for her afternoon nap when the knock came. Soft, hesitant, not Ethan's confident rap or Rosa's musical tapping. Mark stood on my doorstep, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 2 months. His usually perfect hair hung limp, his designer shirt wrinkled. But his eyes held that same calculating look I'd learned to fear during our marriage. Lena. He tried his old charming smile. You look good. Motherhood suits you. What do you want, Mark? To see my daughter, to talk to my wife. Ex-wife, as soon as the papers go through, and you lost the right to see Sophia when you walked out on her birth. He stepped closer, and I caught the smell of whiskey beneath his cologne. I made a mistake, okay? The whole thing, the pressure, the deal falling through, I panicked. But I'm ready now, to be a father, to be a family. The answer is no. His facade cracked. You're living with him, aren't you? That Hale guy. Moved on pretty quick for someone who claimed to love me. I work for Ethan. This is his guest house. Not that it's any of your business. Everything about my daughter is my business. He pushed past me into the house. Nice setup. Real cozy. Tell me, Lena, what did you have to do to land this? Get out. Or what? You'll call your rich boyfriend? He spotted Sophia's bassinet in the living room and started toward it. I have rights. Father's rights. So I moved between him and my sleeping daughter. You have nothing. You abandoned us. You stole our money. You... Prove it. His voice dropped to the silky threat I remembered from our worst fights. I'm a successful real estate agent with connections. You're an unwed mother shacking up with your boss. Who do you think the court will believe? The front door opened behind us. Ethan filled the doorframe, his presence immediately changing the room's energy. He took in the scene, Mark's aggressive stance, my protective position over Sophia's bassinet, and stepped inside. You need to leave, Ethan said simply. Mark laughed. The white knight arrives. Tell me, Hale, how long did you wait before moving in on my wife? A week? 2? I'm giving you one chance to walk out that door. Or what? You'll throw me out? Assault me? I'm sure my lawyer would love that. Mark's eyes glittered with malice. Oh, I have a lawyer now, Victoria Dane. You remember Victoria, don't you, Ethan? She speaks very highly of you. Ethan's jaw tightened at the name. Leave. Now. Mark brushed past him, pausing at the door. This isn't over, Lena. I want my family back, and I always get what I want. Ask your boyfriend about Victoria. She's very good at getting what she wants to. After he left, I sank onto the couch, shaking. Ethan sat beside me, careful not to crowd. Who's Victoria? I asked. An old mistake, he said quietly. We dated briefly, years ago. She's Mayor Dane's daughter, runs a law firm that specializes in complicated cases. And she's Mark's lawyer? Apparently. He ran a hand through his hair. Lena, I need to tell you something. The night I came to the hospital. I'd seen Mark before. At the harbor. He was meeting with some people I've been keeping an eye on, people involved in money laundering through real estate development. My blood chilled. What? I think your ex-husband is in deeper trouble than you know. And if Victoria's involved... He stood, pacing to the window. She doesn't take cases unless there's something in it for her. Something big. Sophia stirred in her bassinet, making the soft sounds that meant she'd wake soon. I lifted her out, needing her warm weight in my arms. What do? I whispered. Ethan turned from the window, his expression fierce. We protect you both, whatever it takes. The way he said we made something flutter in my chest. but Mark's words echoed. I always get what I want. The Monterey Bay Aquarium benefit was exactly the kind of event I'd served champagne at as a struggling college student, never imagining I'd attend as a guest. But here I was, in a borrowed dress from Rosa's daughter, my hand resting lightly on Ethan's arm as we navigated the crowd of the city's elite. You didn't have to bring me, I murmured as we passed a group of women whose jewelry probably cost more than my annual salary. I wanted to, Ethan replied. Besides, you're the one who reorganized our entire emergency medical inventory system. Half these donors are funding those supplies. You should be here. Before I could respond, a woman glided toward us in a red dress that looked painted on. Victoria Dane was everything I wasn't. Tall, blonde, perfect in that way that came from money and privilege. Her smile was sharp as broken glass. Ethan. She air-kissed his cheek, leaving a lipstick mark I had to fight not to wipe away. And you must be the famous Lena. Mark's told me so much about you. Has he told you about abandoning his daughter during birth? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Victoria's laugh tinkled like champagne flutes breaking. Oh, you're feisty. I can see why Ethan's so protective. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. A word of advice, woman to woman? The custody hearing is in 3 weeks. Judges frown on mothers who move in with men so quickly after separation, especially when those men have histories. That's enough, Victoria, Ethan warned. I'm just trying to help. She touched his arm, proprietary. After all, I know better than anyone how you can be when you think you're saving someone. Remember the Fitzgerald case? You nearly lost your company trying to play hero. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC announced, please take your seats for dinner. Victoria drifted away, but not before stage whispering to a nearby couple. Poor thing. From trauma nurse to secretary, though I suppose when you have a baby to feed. My cheeks burned as we found our table. Ethan's hand covered mine. She's trying to rattle you, he said quietly. Don't let her. But as the evening progressed, I overheard snippets of conversation that made my skin crawl. Victoria held court at the mayor's table, her voice carrying just enough for me to hear phrases like unfortunate situation and questions about fitness and what's best for the child. During the auction, I escaped to the bathroom, needing space to breathe. But voices from the adjoining lounge stopped me cold. Whole thing was Mark's idea initially. Victoria's voice, confident and cruel. Though I'll admit, when he came to me about the Cannery Row development, I saw the potential immediately. But surely the environmental surveys, another woman's voice, can be adjusted for the right price. Mark knows which inspectors need encouragement. And once we have the waterfront permits, she laughed. Well, let's just say my father's final term as mayor will be very profitable for all of us. What about his wife? Ex-wife? She's nobody. A tired nurse with a baby and no resources. Even with Ethan playing protector, she can't fight us. Besides, I have insurance. Insurance? Mark kept meticulous records of their finances. Amazing how a few altered bank statements can paint a picture of an unstable woman, postpartum depression, erratic spending, abandoning her nursing career. Another laugh. By the time I'm done, the court will be begging to give Mark custody. And once he has the baby, Lena will sign anything to get her back, including silence about what she might have overheard about our little project. My hands shook as I recorded the conversation on my phone. When they finally left, I stood frozen, processing what I'd heard. This wasn't just about custody. Mark and Victoria were using Sophia, using me, to cover up something massive. I found Ethan on the terrace, staring out at the bay. We need to leave, I said urgently. Now. In the car, I played him the recording. His knuckles went white on the steering wheel. The Cannery Row development, he said grimly. There's been talk about permits being pushed through despite environmental concerns. If they're bribing inspectors, they're going to use Sophia as leverage to keep me quiet, I finished. Ethan, what if they win? What if... They won't. His voice was steel. I promise you, Lena, they won't take her. But as we drove home through the fog, I couldn't shake the image of Victoria's predatory smile. She destroyed people before, and now Sophia and I were in her crosshairs. The emergency weather alert shrieked through my phone at 3 a.m. Category 4 hurricane, unexpected trajectory change, heading straight for Monterey Bay. The first major storm to threaten the coast since the night Sophia was born. Within minutes, Ethan was at my door, already dressed in his emergency gear. I need to get to the harbor. 3 of my ships are out there, including the Meredith's Hope with a full medical supply cargo. In this storm? Ethan? No. The words came out more desperate than I intended. He paused, reading something in my face that made his expression soften. I have to. Those crews, they're my responsibility. Like Meredith was? The words hung between us, cruel and necessary. His face shuddered. Yes, he said quietly. Exactly like Meredith, which is why I can't fail them too. Before I could apologize, take it back, say what I really meant, that I couldn't lose him to, his phone rang. Harbor Patrol, urgent. As he listened, his face went pale. The Meredith's Hope is taking on water. Radio's intermittent. He looked at me, torn. Lena, Go, I said, though everything in me screamed to make him stay. Just come back. He kissed Sophia's forehead, sleeping peacefully despite the rising wind. Then he cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheek. Take care of our girls, Rosa, he said to the older woman who'd appeared in my doorway, drawn by the alerts. Our girls. The words echoed as he disappeared into the storm. By dawn, the hurricane was upon us in full force. Power flickered and died. Rosa and I huddled with Sophia in the bathroom, the safest room, listening to the battery radio for updates. No word on the Meredith's Hope. No word on Ethan. Then a pounding at the door that wasn't wind. Mark stood there, soaked but triumphant, a folder clutched in his hands. Emergency custody order, he shouted over the storm. Judge signed it an hour ago. Victoria pushed it through. Unsafe living conditions, mother exposing child to dangerous situations. You can't be serious. There's a hurricane. Exactly. And you're here alone while your boyfriend plays hero. Very unsafe for a baby. His smile was vicious. But I have a solution. Sign over custody now, voluntarily, and I'll make sure Sophia's somewhere safe. Fight me and Victoria will destroy you in court. Your choice. Go to hell, Mark. He leaned in close. I have connections, Lena. I know exactly where Ethan is right now. One call to my associates with the private salvage company, and they could be very slow getting to the Meredith's Hope. Accidents happen in storms. My blood turned to ice. You wouldn't. Sign the papers. Rosa stepped between us, all 5 feet of her vibrating with fury. You want the baby? You go through me first, cabron. Mark laughed. And you are? Someone who heard every word, who's already called 911 about an intruder threatening a mother and child. She held up her phone, still recording. And someone whose nephew works Harbor Patrol. They know exactly where Mr. Hale is, and your associates are nowhere near him. Mark's face contorted. This isn't over. Victoria? Victoria Dane is about to have bigger problems, I said, finding my spine. I have a recording of her discussing bribing city inspectors, so take your fake emergency order and get out of my house before the real police arrive. He backed toward the door, rain driving in behind him. You think you've won? You have no idea what Victoria's capable of, what I'm capable of. Neither do you, I said quietly. I'm not the woman you left in that hospital. I'm Sophia's mother, and I'll protect her from you and anyone else who tries to hurt her. The sirens were audible now, even over the storm. Mark fled, leaving his fraudulent papers scattered on the wet floor. Rosa gathered me into her arms as I finally broke down. He's okay, Maha. Ethan's strong. He'll come back. But the radio told a different story. The Meredith's Hope was listing badly. Coast Guard overwhelmed. Private vessels attempting rescue in 60-foot seas. I clutched Sophia and prayed to every deity I'd ever heard of. Bring him home, please. Just bring him home. The longest 12 hours of my life crawled by. Then, just as the storm began to weaken, Carmen called. Voice breaking, she said the words I'd been desperate to hear. They found them. He's alive. The Coast Guard cutter battled through 20-foot swells as I stood on deck, Sophia strapped securely to my chest beneath my rain jacket. The rescue coordinator had tried to keep me on shore, but when I explained I was both a trauma nurse and family to one of the survivors, she'd reluctantly agreed. There. The spotter pointed through the gray dawn light. The Meredith's Hope listed severely to starboard, waves breaking over her deck. But there, a figure in an orange survival suit, still manning the emergency beacon. That crazy bastard stayed at the controls to keep the beacon going, the Coast Guardsman muttered. Could have been in the life raft hours ago. As we drew closer, I could see it was Ethan, one arm wrapped around the beacon pole, the other clutching something to his chest. The rescue team deployed fast, and within minutes they were hauling him aboard. Medical supplies, he gasped as they tried to remove the waterproof case from his arms. Insulin. Can't let it wash away. Diabetic kids at the clinic. We've got it, I said, dropping to my knees beside him. Ethan, look at me. His eyes focused with difficulty. Hypothermic, exhausted, but alive. So beautifully alive. Lena? His hand fumbled for mine. Sophia? Safe. We're both safe. I helped the medics get him below deck, professional training overriding personal fear. Mark came during the storm, but Rosa and I handled it. Good, he mumbled. Knew you would. Strong like the sea. It wasn't until we were transferring him to the ambulance that I noticed what else he'd saved from the ship. A waterproof pouch containing USB drives and documents. Evidence, he whispered when he saw me looking. From the ship's previous charter. Victoria and Mark, they've been using my routes to move money. Found it all in the captain's hidden safe. At the hospital, while Ethan was treated for hypothermia and exhaustion, I called the FBI field office. Within hours, agents were reviewing the contents of those drives. Banking records, shipping manifests with discrepancies, conversations recorded by a paranoid captain who'd suspected his vessel was being used for illegal purposes. This is big, Agent Rivera told me quietly. Not just money laundering, bribes to city officials, environmental violations. Your ex-husband and Ms. Dane are looking at serious federal charges. What about the custody case? What custody case? Hard to seek custody from federal prison. 2 days later, I was helping Ethan walk from his hospital room when Victoria appeared in the hallway. Gone was the polished perfection. Her hair hung limp, her designer suit wrinkled. You did this, she hissed at Ethan. You always had to be the hero, just like with Meredith. Ethan stiffened. Don't. Oh, should I not mention how she died trying to save those refugees because you encouraged her hero complex? How you let her go out in a storm just like… Stop. My voice cut through her venom. I know what you're doing. You want to hurt him because you're going down and you need someone else to bleed too. But you're done. Done hurting him. Done threatening my daughter. Done. Victoria laughed bitterly. You think you've won? You have no idea what I know, what I could tell. Tell it to your cellmate, Agent Rivera said, appearing with 2 other agents. Victoria Dane, you're under arrest for money laundering, bribery, and conspiracy to commit fraud. As they led her away, she threw one last look over her shoulder. He'll never love you like he loved her. You're just another project to save. Ethan's hand found mine, squeezing tight. She's wrong, he said quietly. You were never a project, Lena. You are… He stopped, frustrated. I'm terrible at this. At what? Telling you that somewhere between that night in the storm and now I fell in love with you, with both of you. And not because you needed saving, but because you didn't. Because you faced every challenge and kept standing. Because you make me want to be better than I am. I reached up, touched his face. You saved my life that night, not just by being there, but by showing me I was worth staying for. So stay, he whispered. Not in the guest house, not as my employee, as my partner, my equal, my family. Sophia chose that moment to voice her opinion, a happy gurgle that made us both laugh through our tears. I think that's a yes, I said. The federal courthouse in San Francisco gleamed with morning sun as I adjusted Sophia's dress one more time. 6 months old now, she was oblivious to the gravity of the day, more interested in the wooden teething ring Rosa had blessed with holy water for protection. Ready? Ethan asked, his hand steady on my back. No, I admitted, but let's do this anyway. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Media, given the high-profile nature of Victoria's father. City officials subpoenaed to testify. And there, in orange jumpsuits and shackles, Mark and Victoria. Mark had lost weight. His golden boy looks faded to something harder. When he saw Sophia, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Or just calculation about what he'd lost? The federal prosecutor laid out the case methodically. Financial records, recorded conversations, the evidence from the Meredith's Hope that connected shipments to laundered money. When my recording from the aquarium benefit played, Victoria's words about using custody as leverage echoing through the courtroom, several jury members visibly recoiled. Then it was my turn to testify. Mrs. Peterson, excuse me, Miss Torres, can you describe the night your daughter was born? I told them everything. The storm, the abandonment, Ethan's kindness, the financial devastation, Mark's threats. As I spoke, I felt something shifting inside me, the last pieces of shame and self-blame finally falling away. He made his choice that night, I concluded. He chose a business deal over his daughter's birth, over our lives. Everything that followed was just the consequence of that choice. The defense tried to paint me as a bitter ex-wife, a gold digger who'd moved on to a richer man. But the evidence was overwhelming. When Agent Rivera presented the USB files showing Mark had been planning to leave me even before Sophia's birth, had been moving money for months, the jury's expressions hardened. The verdict came back in under 2 hours, guilty on all counts. As they led Mark away, he called out, "Lena, please, let me see her, just once." I looked at my daughter, peaceful in Ethan's arms, then at the man who'd abandoned us in our darkest hour. "No," I said simply. "You made your choice. Now live with it." Center, outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but Ethan guided us to a quiet spot overlooking the bay. "It's over," he said softly. "The trial is," I corrected. "But we're just beginning." He pulled out a small velvet box, going to one knee right there on the courthouse steps. "Then let's begin right. Lena Torres, will you marry me? Not because you need me, but because I need you. Because you and Sophia have become my whole world, and I can't imagine facing another storm without you." "Wait," I said, and his face fell. "I need to say something first." I took a deep breath, thinking of how far I'd come from that terrified woman in the delivery room. "I'll marry you, Ethan Hale, but as your equal, your partner. I want to go back to school, get my nurse practitioner degree. I want to be part of your business, not just an employee. I want us to face storms together, but also know we're each strong enough to weather them alone if we had to." "So that's a yes?" "That's a yes with conditions." He stood, slipping the ring onto my finger. Not a massive diamond like Mark would have chosen, but a pearl surrounded by sapphires. "A pearl from the sea," he explained, "because the most beautiful things come from surviving the pressure." As we headed home to Monterey, Sophia sleeping peacefully between us, I thought about storms. How they could destroy, yes, but also how they could wash away what wasn't strong enough to last, leaving only what truly mattered. 3 years later, I stood on the deck of our newest vessel, the Sophia Marie, a medical support ship that would serve the California coast. My nurse practitioner degree hung in Ethan's office next to a photo from our wedding on this very dock. "Mama, up!" Sophia demanded, and I lifted her to see over the rail. At 3, she had her father's stubbornness. Ethan had legally adopted her the day after our wedding, and my determination. "See that?" I pointed to the horizon, where storm clouds gathered in the distance. "Those are rain clouds. But we're not afraid of storms, are we?" "Nope," she grinned. "Storms make us stronger." Ethan joined us, his arms wrapping around us both. "Weather Service says it'll miss us. Head north instead." "Good," I said, leaning into his warmth. "Rosa's watching Sophia tonight. Date night, remember?" He kissed my temple. "How could I forget? Same restaurant where you told me you were pregnant again." I placed his hand on my still flat stomach. "About that." His eyes widened. "Really?" "Really. Due in October. Storm season." He laughed, rich and full. "Of course, we do nothing the easy way." As the sun set over Monterey Bay, painting the sky in shades of hope, I thought about the woman I'd been. Broken, abandoned, convinced I'd never be whole again. She'd be proud of who I'd become, not because a man had saved me, but because I'd saved myself. Ethan had offered shelter from the storm, yes, But I'd been the one to rebuild, to choose love over fear, to create this life where Sophia could grow up knowing her worth. The storm clouds drifted north, leaving our sky clear and full of stars. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. It always did. But tonight, wrapped in the arms of a man who saw my strength before I did, watching my daughter chase seagulls on the deck of a ship named for her, I was exactly where I belonged. Home. Not a place, but a choice. Made new every day, in sunshine and in storms,